Okay, it's 4 o'clock on Thursday, March 8th, 2018. We have a quorum, so I will call this Newalm Public Library Board meeting to order. First item is the approval of the agenda as printed. Chris has indicated to me that you would like to move up item number 5, the roof leak update, to after the second resolution, number 2018-09, because we have the city folks here, so she'd like to cover that all at once. So based on that, I will make a motion to approve the agenda with the modification as indicated and as printed. Do I have a second?
I'll
do.
second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Chris, any more updates?
No, thanks.
You're not hearing any, then all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carried. Next is the approval of the minutes from the February 8th, 2018 Library Board meeting, which are included in the packet. Hopefully everyone's had a chance to review them. And so I'm going to make a motion to approve the minutes from the February 8th, 2018 Library Board meeting. Do I have a second?
So move, or second.
I have a second, motion and a second for approving the minutes. Any discussion, corrections? All right, not hearing any, then all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carried. Now, because we got a couple special guests here today, we've got a couple resolutions to take care of right away. But fear not, we'll have resolutions at the end too, so hopefully we won't upset the normal flow of our business meeting. So the first one is resolution number 2018-08, and it can be found on page 6 of your packet. And it's consider a request from Newalm Public Utilities to install an electrical switch and junction on library property. The Newalm Public Utilities Electric Distribution Department requests that the library board consider allowing the installation of an electrical switch and junction on the library property. Currently, the switch is located underground on First North Street near the parking lot entrance to the library, and it needs to be replaced. Electric Distribution Assistant Supervisor Jeff Volkins recommends that the replacement unit be moved above ground because it provides a safer environment for workers compared with an underground unit, and because it is more cost-effective in the long term. Photographs are included that show a similar unit to what would be installed at the library, as well as a photo of the area of the library under consideration. The switch is about 8 feet 5 inches by 9 feet 8 inches and 4 feet tall. The junction is about 5 feet 6 inches by 23 inches and 2 feet tall. Drawings included in the packet that show the following. Drawing number 1 shows the library structures and grounds as seen from First North Street. The current switch is located under the manhole cover located to the right of the library parking lot entrance. Drawing number 2 shows this installation option involves placing the switch flush with the northwest corner of the 1937 library building. This would involve removing the 2 trees that are shown in the drawing number 1. Number 3, the installation option involves placing the unit in the northwest corner of the 1937 library building and centered between the steps facing First North Street and the building corner. This also would involve removing the 2 trees. Drawing number 4 shows the conduits serviced by the current switch, which provides power to many locations, including all the way up to Martin Luther College. Drawing number 5 shows the installation option recommended by the Electric Distribution Assistant Supervisor and located at the far southwest corner of the 1937 library property. This would involve removing only 1 tree. Drawing number 6 shows the measurements of the area under consideration. Drawing number 7 is an installation option located in the first 1.5 parking spaces closest to First Street North. The light pole, which was installed in 2016, would need to be removed or moved, and 3 posts would have to be installed to protect the switch. The options for the library board include the following. Option 1, approve the recommendation from the Electric Distribution Assistant Supervisor to install the switch and junction on the far southwest corner of the 1937 property. This would involve removing one tree, and the unit would be located in an area that is currently green space. Option 2, approve the installation of the switch and junction in the parking lot. This would involve removing 1.5 parking stalls, moving a light pole, and installing 3 posts around the unit. Option number 3 is to deny the request, and then the PUC would need to find an alternate location for its switch. Option 4, table the request for further discussion, and then any other option stemming from the discussion of the library board. Alrighty, so I will entertain a motion to consider the request from New Ulm Public Library Public Utilities to install the electrical switch and junction on library property.
Mr. Chair, I'd like, before we begin to consider a motion, ask if the representative here from the electric department could talk to us about the cost of these different options, as I think it was stated that by not having this located underground would save the utility some money, and I'm just curious as to the cost of all these projects, these options, before we consider their request.
Okay? So then the floor will recognize Jeff Folkins, who's the Electric Distribution Assistant Supervisor, who can provide us more information on that.
Okay, one thing with the cost is gonna be more with the underground switch in that manhole because of the size configurations to get it to fit in that manhole. Number 2 is, right now, there is no VFI on those switches.
Could you explain what a VFI is?
Well, a VFI is like a breaker, okay? And in the house, if you have your light switch goes bad, your breaker trips off. Okay, right now there is no electrical protection in there, it's just solid. Okay, so when it goes bad, like last year, we had, the courthouse had bad cable, so that whole feeder went out. And then another time, right at homecoming of the college, we had a bad chunk of cable, which brought the whole feeder out. So by this old switch is kind of like a dinosaur, I guess, where you have to update it. Personal safety is probably our number 1 reason why we want to bring it out of that hole, because we're so close to the plant, and if you switch into a bad cable, the fault current is potential, and somebody could get seriously hurt. To make it simple.
So do you have any cost numbers, Jeff?
I can't give you, I don't have that total cost, what that switch is in the manhole compared to above. I know we have above ground one that was right around $50,000, okay? I don't have the cost because the manufacturer hasn't got back to us. We got a number of manufacturers looking at this, but I can't say go ahead and build it, and we haven't seen it yet to give you the exact number. There is going to be some costs offset because we're going to have to run the cable system all the way from that manhole over to the side. So, but in the long run, we're trying to get everything above ground instead of the manhole. I know with underground, nobody wants boxes, okay? But they all like electricity. They like to be able to turn on the switch.
And so just to reiterate, this is not coming out of the library budget.
No,
This is not
this
being
is
funded
all
by the
our
library, so it's on the
costs.
city. The only request that you're currently asking is to install the new switch and junction on the library property.
Yes, yes. And I mean, I did enough layouts and stuff on the corner there that would take up the minimum amount of room, and it would probably look the best.
But Carl does have some valid questions about the cost differences of keeping it out of sight, out of mind kind of thing, but you raised some issues that it would be more costly to keep it underground, and then there's the safety factor because of the amount of room available down there, and then putting the basically the electricians possibly in harm's way because they're working on a tighter space.
Sure, and there's nowhere to go
Right.
when that stuff goes bad.
Yeah,
There's always, it seems to me, some inherent risk associated with working with
There is.
the electricity that
That's why
you
I
all
do
work
it.
with.
I like it. But
Have you ever had an injury
in a manhole?
in that location with the manhole?
Not at that one, but up on the college we did with Steve Suk up there.
I remember that.
He got nowhere to go, and he said when that cable, when he did what he did, light bulb, all he could see was the filament, and everything else was black. It just that flashes is a great deal.
It's not that it happens frequently at
No,
all,
it
but
isn't something
it's
that
potentially
happens
extremely
every
dangerous
day,
and
but
deadly fatal.
The
Could be.
potential's there.
Yeah.
Okay?
I'm looking at your drawings, which I really like. We're either getting rid of one tree or two trees potentially.
Yes.
Is one tree better to get rid of than the other one? It looks like you chose.
It just seems like I could go like 2 feet off the sidewalk there, and then we could put river rock around and decorate it a little bit, so our electric, when we come in, we like to leave it better than it was. I know we can't do nothing about the tree.
Right.
Maybe we could take, there's an option, we take both trees out and then we plant different trees, smaller flowering crab or, change the landscape a little bit.
so is there a certain code requirements of distance from the buildings and stuff and from the sidewalk that you need to have?
Anything from a window is like 10 feet, okay? Otherwise, we like to stay at least 3 feet away from a building. But code is 10 feet from a window, okay? From a transformer. And I took a picture of that transformer that we sit on the side as your entrance right there. So, all these years it's been sitting there, I know it,
Jeff, would you hold that up? That's not in their packet.
No,
Explain what that is.
Here, and I made copies because I know you like a lot of things. That's the transformer that feeds it.
Okay.
And that's in between the parking lot entrances.
But it seems we've also got an option of taking up one of the parking stalls too.
Yep.
So we could lose no trees. That's an option too.
That is an option,
But
yeah.
you would lose 1.5 parking
would-
spaces.
Yeah,
Yes,
Parking is kind of
And I
limited.
almost didn't
Yeah.
do it, but Chris said, draw it up anyway, just because I thought parking was a big commodity down there.
And the fact that we wouldn't necessarily lose a tree, but then we'd have to move the light pole, which we had just.
Which would be on us anyway.
Right,
you
but
know.
still, we just put a lot of time and
Yeah.
effort into putting
I
them in
getcha,
and.
I getcha. And the reason we gotta go so big is, number one is to plan for the future, so I don't have to come back here in 5 years or whatever and say, hey, I gotta go double the size of the switch and stuff, so.
Yeah.
I'm planning for the future also for taking that overhead lines down that goes through the alley. So that's why the switches has to be so big.
And plus, you've got some pretty substantial sized conduit there. You've got some 4-inch.
I believe there's like 8 conduits that have to come out of there. Even with the switch in the manhole, I might have to still put up that junction just because of the room down there.
I have to say that, and having thought about this for a while, that I am really opposed to removing mature trees from any place and eliminating the green space and so make it such a distracting appeal of the looks of those buildings with a big unit out in front of them on our grounds there. And we've, trying to make some curb appeal improvements with the Wanda Gog statue and the benches, and having a landscape committee try to make something over their flow and look very attractive
Sure.
with the building. And So I'm really opposed to removing trees or taking up green space for this project. And my real preference is to put it back underground or somewhere else, but I would be willing to consider using the surface space of the parking stalls. I think that's less unappealing to me to lose a space and a half as opposed to mature trees and green space on the grounds. But I think something that I'd like for us to at least talk about or think about is making some kind of a lease arrangement with the utilities for that space of the stall. And if the board is so inclined that we could consider leasing that space, as we have talked about in the past with this board since I've been on, and I think from my understanding, this board has thought about it over some years, is trying to come around the issue of library fines and penalties for our patrons. And it seems to me this might be an opportunity for us to supplant that budget item of library fines with some kind of a light lease arrangement with the utilities for the surface space that would consume 1.5 parking stalls. And that would, I think, overcome my opposition to having this unit on the library grounds. At least it would be off of our green space. It would take up a surface space that's already asphalt and concrete, and then allow the library to achieve some benefit out of having it there, and make it more appealing to the utilities to have it above ground.
I like your, I prefer the parking space option 2, Carl. I'm curious, though, what about snow removal in that area? Is this a factor for who removes snow from the parking lot? The city?
Street department.
City department? Is this something, does anybody know, would this affect them if it were in that spot? Would it make it harder for them? Anybody?
They would just have to work around it like they do with other things, I guess.
Okay.
So
I don't know if they're taking a pickup in there with a plow or what they're doing.
the other morning, I think I saw a little, looked like a Bobcat type thing doing the parking lot. So if one of the options is to table the request for further discussion, which may end up, we may end up having to do if we got a variance of opinions, what is your deadline in terms of for us to make a decision?
Before it was sooner than later because of the cost and getting these switches made and stuff. Right now, it just helps us with a redundancy of backup, because you just don't have the college on this thing. You have the old high school, the old middle school, the family service center, the courthouse, St. Paul's School. And if you've been in town for a while, we have very few outages, and that's what we strive to do. So it might get put off till next year because of the budget item. If the switch comes in at $70,000 and then plus digging over and whatever our agreement is. I know there was there was no interest in leasing a spot or paying for a spot since it's a city property. There were some talks. So I can't answer you 100% your question, I guess. If I knew more, we were gonna go ahead with it, but if we did have the cable, we're at a With that spot, where that switch is right now, I can't make, there's one set of old cables yet that we can't replace. We replaced everything else going down First North and to the courthouse last year. So because of the old splices and stuff going into the switch, I can't replace that. So we took the college and put it up onto another feeder, just for safety. And it's better for the college not tripping out. We do not want to take out Vogel or anybody or family services. And we are lucky that our outages were on the weekend, except for at homecoming. That was a big factor at the college. But we don't want to see anybody without power. So, if that other cable blew, I don't know. We might have to go ahead and just say we're gonna go and see what happens, I guess. I
But at
gotta
this
have-
point, the project hasn't been approved by the city yet either?
It's, because of the costs, it's not really, it's because it was such of a late item before the budget, it hasn't been approved. But it will go if it's necessary. That we'll just push off a different job,
Right.
okay?
Well, I think, Jeff, the distinction is that it's a utilities commission budget issue, not a city council budget issue.
No, and like I said, if that cable blew, that last piece, and we had to do something, we're gonna have to do it. But if I can get this, we'll get the switch ordered, okay, that's gonna come, so, but it takes a long window now because nobody carries, and this is be a custom switch if I end up having it in the manhole. So, nobody carries this stuff on hands anymore because of cost. So they gotta build it.
What's your preference?
What is my preference? Right on that corner, that is my preference
Your
after doing.
option one?
That option,
Yeah, option
my
one is,
drawing number 5,
Drawing number 5.
is
where I
the,
got them
that's
stacked.
the installation option recommended by
Okay.
you then.
That would be my option after doing this a number
Number
of years.
16, I think page
So that's the one where we only remove one tree,
Yes.
and it basically puts it on the corner of the green space there.
And
It's
like
not,
I-
it's not up against the building.
Right, it'll be out and you'll have some, we'll have some room in there. We can, I know people don't like to get rid of trees, I understand, I usually cut trees on the side. But if I can reshape that, or we can get something, those trees are probably already half-lifed. We brought in different trees, maybe flowering crabs, it's just ideas. I'm not gonna, I don't want a big box and then everybody comes up and goes, oh my God, that looks bad. We do a neat job, I think, and way we design them and the layouts. I put a little bit of time and thought into this, and for the layouts, and we did a lot of, like up on Summit and stuff. We went up there and did all the layouts up there. You're gonna have to remove to do, to modernize things, you're gonna have to have some sort of change. Nobody likes it, I understand that, but sometimes it just has to happen.
I have what might be a stupid question, but an issue came up last year concerning a piece of property that's behind the library that is being managed by the home that it is adjacent to. Any chance that it could go there? You know what I'm talking about? Do you remember that, those of you?
Yeah, they're using it as a garden.
Yeah, yeah. Are you aware of that?
Yeah, I heard of bits and pieces, I just tried to keep a central location with that, because the farther we run away from that manhole, it gets into more cost.
Because you gotta run conduit there, right?
Yep, we gotta run conduits, and then new wires gotta be pulled, well, new wires have to be pulled either way, so, but the lengthwise.
Yep.
If I remember right, that land that we leased out, that's back up behind the garage back here. So that wouldn't be
Where would that be, Holly?
it's back behind the garage here. It's back up on the property back behind the garage, so I don't think that would work for you.
Yeah, for accessibility, I don't know.
Well, I have to say that I've been here enough times where the parking lot is full that I really don't know that I can go with losing 2 parking stalls. I just don't think the library can afford to do that.
And I'd have to agree with you on that one, even though I like trees a lot. I understand the need to try and keep those, the green space up and coming too. I do have some concerns looking at the pictures of the trees as to how healthy the trees are. I would hate for us to lose those trees too, because we do have kind of a cement building that we're trying to make look nice. So that's a big concern when we move forward too. But I think that our parking is an important factor that we need to keep in mind as we move forward, because we do have a lot of people who will drive through if they don't find a parking spot in that lot, and they won't come back, potentially.
I think if we make that option that Jeff recommends and make it contingent that the PUC would pay for some landscaping that we would approve, including replanting a tree to replace the one, that I could go along with that one. I mean, I don't know exactly what we want, but I think maybe when we're done, we can look at it, and if we want another tree or something, that the PUC would just ante up for it.
Sure. Don't think that'd be a problem.
Sounds like a good compromise.
I kind of wonder if it would be a little less obtrusive or a little less noticeable if you would take out the tree that's kind of closer to the building, the one on, and when looking at the picture, the one on the left. You know, but I know that we have to be careful of the spacing from the windows, but I kind of wonder if it was placed there, if it might seem a little bit more inconspicuous as opposed to having it right on the corner.
Now, the reason though for, with the one where you, with the option where you had it closer to Broadway, I guess, you still had to take out both trees. Is that because you had to run conduit?
Yeah, it depends how we set it up, you know, it's hard to, I guess I could've laid out more, you know, but I mean, it's kind of overwhelming to people.
Yeah.
They go, well, I want this one.
Well, you don't want to give too many options, because then you just, you know, you don't reach a decision.
So, we could go on the, looking at, the photograph of the 2 trees, we could take that one out, and
Back
then
in that space.
what happens if we stuck it closer to the sidewalk? That would be an option. Or if you wanted it back a little ways, just, I mean, we gotta stay away from that window. That one is, whoever said that, that is very noticeable. That tree is leaning more towards the building, okay? And they're sunburst locusts, so they're a messier tree, but, we could go that route.
Do you, with your experience with trees, if you cut down and mess with the roots of that one tree, will it affect the root system of the other tree?
I think we're far enough away. I mean, I'm gonna take probably some of those, but as long as we're at least 6-8 feet away from that, it shouldn't be affected. Because you're not, you got the whole thing dealing with, you got a lot of, on the right-hand tree, you got a lot of those roots going underneath that sidewalk, and then also along the building, I'm sure. And we'd grind the stump down and everything on that one, on the left-hand one, if we did a drawing like that.
Jeff, is that property, that old library building, is that old enough to be part of the historical significance, or is it part of the historic block areas that?
I couldn't answer that one, I'd be lying to you, Carl.
Carl, yes, it is.
So don't you have to get some kind of permitting to do any kind of work around a historic site?
You know, I don't know.
The other thing is, what kind of equipment would you be putting on the property in order to install this unit and then over the years to maintain it? If you had an issue with it, what, would you need to drive equipment on it?
Bring in our big digger truck and then lift it off there if we ever had to. We haven't really had a switch fail that we had in service, that I've been here, other than when they came brand new one time. The company miswired it and it shorted out right away, so we sent it back.
So would you be bringing like a crane in to install it and a ditch witch to dig the,
We would bring in we have a little mini X that has a bucket on tracks, and anything that we disturb, it's better than new.
Crack sidewalks or
Crack sidewalks, leak
gouge?
cover, everything, I'll take pictures of it, and then if anything cracks, or, cause I'm gonna have to remove some sidewalk anyway to get those conduits out from that area into the street and bring them over towards that manhole.
During the term of your construction, how long would that take?
Probably depends if I, say 2 weeks. Maybe a week, depends how things went and what I all had to cross in the street. And if we could bore from that manhole down to that corner and then dig it in by where the tree is, you know, just digging up that area, it's about a day and a half from digging out that area, getting the conduit system in, forming it up, and,
you gotta put a concrete pad?
yes,
Okay.
that'll be a concrete pad, and then there'll be rock around that concrete pad. River rock is what probably holds the best, and it doesn't, like the limestone, it seems like it gets, weeds and stuff in there a lot easier. Put plastic down, we'd make it look nice.
Would it be one pad for both the switch and the,
Junction just has basically a fiberglass basement to it, which goes in the ground, and then our conduits come up into that. So,
so that doesn't require the pad?
no,
Okay.
During the term of your construction, would you be parking overnight equipment in the library parking lot?
no, we just put it right, we'd cone off that, we'd put signs up along that road and just kinda keep that area.
Is it your responsibility then to report back to either this board or someone about what, if any, the requirements are for historic site permitting or approval?
Well, yes, I can, do some checking, I guess, but, you know,
We don't have, is Elwood part of that?
Elwood's here.
he's right there.
Elwood Zabel, building official. Yeah, we'd have to check with the HPC. It's locally designated. I don't see a big problem with it, being it's dealing with, to me, it's more of a safety issue that we're looking at. It's not just the electrical down there, it's confined space entry, it's air quality down there. They've got a lot of safety stuff that going into that manhole, the way it looks.
Or we'd have to still see if there's any kind of variances required for working around a historic site, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, we're not touching the building or anything, it's changing
Right.
the view.
But
Like-
that could, I don't know how strict the rules are, and
Well, it'd be the local HPC that would be looking at it. It's not on the National Register or anything the state would be involved, so it would just be the local. And I can make a phone call and find out and let Jeff
Okay.
know.
well, then based on what I've heard, it sounds like we have a variance of opinions for which options we'd like to go with, as well as requiring some more information. So based on that, I would recommend that we go with option 4 for right now, to table the request for further discussion, which we can then have a separate meeting on, and then also then get feedback from the city for certain information that we're asking of them.
Second.
So I have a motion and a second for considering the request from New Ulm Public Utilities to install the electrical switch and junction on library property, where we will be utilizing option 4 to table the request for further discussion. Any further discussion?
I like the suggestion of taking out that back of the 2 trees. So if that's an option that you could
Okay.
work out, Jeff, I think that might hide the box from the public a
So
little
it-
more.
Okay, so the couple things we want to look at for the city to do then is, Elwood and/or Jeff would look at, what kind of variances would be required from the local HPC for working around the building. And then secondly, coming up with like another option similar to, the option where it's, centered, but maybe moving it, finding a different location, either closer to the building or to the sidewalk, which requires the removal of only the one tree, the inside tree.
Okay.
Anything else?
I would like to add that as part of that, Mr. Chair, that we have something in written approval from the HPC regarding their consent regarding, the fact that we do or don't need anything, any permitting. I think it should be part of the project record that we have
Okay.
when we approve the use of the land over there for this item.
So Elwood, could you take care of that then too, and just, more than just a phone call? Just get something, follow up on that. And then also, we would probably want to look at the, adding the option that was mentioned earlier about the PUC then to provide any makeup landscaping, which may or may not include another tree, following the installation of this to help re-beautify the green space. Anything else? All right, then, all in favor of tabling this request for further discussion with the modifications that we've so stipulated, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carried on that one. Now we'll go quickly on to,
Ask you a question?
what's that?
Can I ask you a question?
Go ahead.
How long, do we have to wait for another month, or?
I think what we'll probably end up doing is we probably won't do it we'll do it in an interim board meeting. We'll have a board meeting in between, so we won't have to wait another month for an official board meeting. So we'll just have a board meeting just to discuss this topic. But we're gonna need to get feedback from you guys first as to when you have that information, and then we can schedule that meeting. So it'll be sooner than later.
Okay, I appreciate it.
All right, so the next one is, and I don't know if we need these guys still involved, but the resolution 2018-09, which is on page 19, approving the use of fund balance to replace an HVAC unit. An HVAC unit that supports the library staff workroom stopped functioning on February 22nd. The unit is 10 years old, and the building official recommends that the unit be replaced rather than repaired because the freon required is no longer manufactured. A request for quotations was submitted to 4 local vendors. The 2 quotes received are attached. Given the urgency of replacing the unit, the library director and building official selected Aaron's Heating and Air Conditioning's low bid of $81.46 on February 28th. Installation is pending. This project was unanticipated and therefore not budgeted. The library director recommends that fund balance be used to pay for the project. So I will entertain a motion for approving the use of fund balance to replace the HVAC unit.
I so move.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Installation is scheduled for next Thursday. It will involve a crane coming in. We're hopeful that that piece is completed before the library opens at 9:30.
So this is the rooftop unit then?
It is
And you said it's scheduled for when? Thursday?
Thursday, March 15th.
Okay. And I did take a look at the quotes, and both of the quotes that were submitted indicated that not included was the electrical work, and I asked Chris about that, and she said that the electrical work will be done, but it's not to be taken out of the same fund as this. Fund balance is gonna come out of,
It will come out of our operating budget.
okay.
We're anticipate a couple $100 for the electrical.
I just wanted to clarify that because these quotes that did not include the entire cost of it, but they would become, the electrical installation will come out of a different budget. All right, anything else?
Just a inquiry regarding the roof leak. Is that anywhere in proximity to where this unit is going?
Yes, it is.
So are we going to repair the roof before we replace the unit, or vice versa?
Oh, it's
Do
gonna
you want to
stand
roll
up
right
here.
into that other item that you would ask to move up, was on the roof leak?
It's been quite a time at the library.
Actually, where this rooftop unit is located is in a screened-in area up on the roof, and there's 2 other units up there. And these units are all elevated up on top of a curb that's about 2.5, 3 feet tall. The roof leak is down on the roof itself, so this will not inhibit fixing the roof in any way, shape, or form. Replacing the rooftop shouldn't have any effect on the roofing of the, if we go that route.
What do you mean if you go that route? Is there another route?
Well, we're looking at, these roofs were installed in 2001. This is the lower roof of the library, where you come out of the library itself and walk on this roof. And then the upper roof over the main part of the library was replaced at the same time. Was done by a local contractor, and a year ago or 2 years ago was the same contractor to the city hall roof. Came up and looked at the roof itself. The membrane, the rubber membrane of the roof was in real good condition. He quoted to come in and redo all the seams, the corners of the curbs, and redo all that, and extend our warranty another 10 years on the city hall roof for a minimal cost. I've made contact with this contractor, and he hasn't got back to me yet, but I'm going to see if that's an option up on this roof also, to have it come up, get it inspected, see if we can get some more years out of this roof with some maintenance, taking care of it, or if it's just in need of re-roofing.
So you basically need them to come and inspect it to determine the extent of what can or can't be done.
Correct, yep.
Okay.
Because the upper roof, we haven't had any problems with that leaking. It's been more the skylight area, that's where the leaks on that part of the roof have been. So that's where we're looking at. This was kind of a new area that just sprung up, and it could have been a seam let loose or one of the corners there's many penetrations going through there for ductwork coming down into the building and down into the basement. So it may have been a corner that let loose or something that, if we come in, the membrane itself is in good condition yet, just needs some maintenance issues done.
And where it's leaking inside doesn't necessarily indicate where the leak is on the roof either, because I mean, water.
Correct, yeah, the water could be 20 feet away running over to
Yep.
the vent pipe that it's running through, and there's a conduit with some low voltage wires that are going up through the roof for the rooftop units.
So if the contractor recommends that, yeah, we could do some patching and repairing and seam repair, would that have to wait then until spring, or would they be able to, get the snow off of there and start it sooner?
I think we'd have to wait till spring, because the screened-in area, the screen walls are 7 to 8 feet tall. So, and it's very, very confined space. There's a one-way in, one-way out kind of thing.
Okay. So basically then we'll just have to deal with the leaks.
As far as
until
I
that
know,
time.
they've all stopped. As of now, they've came up and did some temporary patching, and they've stopped, so we're hoping that we've found them.
Oh, okay.
We thought we had them earlier last week. There's ductwork that's exposed up there, which is wrapped with insulation and wrapped with an aluminum topping on that. Those seams had busted open, and they thought that's where the water was coming in, was from the ductwork itself running along there. But a week later, we found out that could have possibly been part of the leak, but that's the other one popped
The whole
up.
thing, okay.
Yep.
All right, well, that's hopefully, yeah, that, and with the recent snowfall, additional snowfall, I'm sure we'll find out once the melting starts if that was effective.
Yeah.
All right,
So the HVAC unit can be done independent of the roof leak repair?
Correct, yes. Yep. Like I say, these units are all set on top of a curb. That, like I said, that's 2.5, 3 feet tall. And it's kind of a specialty thing is the one unit that takes care of the basement, the ducts come in through the side of that unit. And that's just sitting on top of the curb. There's no hole in the curb. The other two units that are up there are using that curb as return air plenum. And the leak is down on the roof itself, farther towards Broadway side, towards this Broadway side and First Street north side. And the unit we're replacing is back up against the wall towards the parking lot.
Will the inspection of the roof include an inspection regarding mildew growth in the walls or the ceilings or anything like that?
Nope, it'll be just a inspection of the roof itself. We may take some samples, core samples of the roof to see what the insulation looks like after these leaks. If that's something that we need to look at, if the insulation has gotten wet and is deteriorating, or if everything looks good. They say maybe we can get by with just doing some maintenance on the roof.
are you gonna look at competitive bidding on this? Or is it just gonna be, you just got one contractor in mind who specializes in this and?
Well, if we go with the contractor that put it on and he can extend the warranty, that's who we'll have to go with.
That makes
Is that they're
sense.
the only ones that will be able to work on it.
Yep.
Because the warranty just went out in September of 16. We had a 15-year warranty on it. So it's possible that he may look at that again and say, but I have to,
If I come in and do the work, I'll extend the warranty for an X period amount of time kind of thing.
right.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah, because we got a 10-year extension on the warranty for City Hall here to take it out.
All right, any other further questions for Elwood? All right, so back to the issue at hand. I had a motion and a second for approving the use of fund balance to replace the HVAC unit. Any further discussion? All right, hearing none, then all in favor say aye. Any opposed? All right, motion carried. So I think that takes us through the two resolutions as well as the roof leak update. So then, Elwood, thanks, and Jeff, thanks.
Thank you.
He's already out. He's gone. So that took quite a while. So now I think we're gonna go a little over today in our meeting. So we'll switch over to the financial report and summary for both December 2017 and then follow that right along with the January 2018. First?
Thank you, and I flipped them in the packet. So 2017 is actually on page 30, which shows the budget approximately 94.96% expended, which translates to about $40,000 under budget. There's still some adjustments that will be made, so I'll have a final packet, final report included in the packet for April. I do know that at this point, they have made the prepaid adjustments, so we're sitting at about $33,000 under budget for 2017. Final
So-
transfer to fund balance has not been made, though.
So when we looked at this last month, it was about 60,000
Right.
under budget, but they looked like with all the payments that were not yet reflected, it looked to be about $173 over budget. Are we still talking about that, or are we gonna be looking at being truly under budget, or,
We will be under budget.
okay,
Yes, absolutely. And it will be about $33,000,
okay.
give or take a little bit. Any questions on 2017?
Here's a question, because I'm new here, does budget roll over to additional years then? Or-
It goes into what we call fund balance.
Okay.
And I'll refer you to page 36. If you look at the third line down, Fund 211-254000,
Okay.
that's fund balance unreserved undesignated. That's the number of our fund balance. And what money we have left over at the end of the year goes into that
So then
particular
for
fund.
unplanned repairs and things.
For
So like that
HVAC.
HVAC unit,
Yeah.
just pulled out of that.
Okay,
Yep.
Yes.
that makes sense.
And then I'm imagining that any roof repairs probably come out of this.
And that's something to talk about because the roof was actually planned as a citywide, sort of like our elevator for 2017. That's a citywide, it comes out of 290, which is the city building fund. That's what we anticipate the roof will become
Oh,
out of.
okay.
It will not necessarily come out of library funds.
Okay.
Because
good to
it was
know.
planned at the larger building level.
Yep. Now, was it a repair planned or was it a replacement?
It is a replacement planned, so
Oh.
we'll see what ends up.
Yeah, so
happening.
if the contractor comes back and says for a way lesser amount, I can patch and seam this and I'll guarantee it for another 10 years, that might be the route we want to take versus replacing it completely.
Yeah. And then we would talk with the finance department, of course,
Yeah.
about how that would be paid.
Okay.
So that shows you our fund balance, and best practice is to have 35 to 50% of your annual budget in fund balance, and we were at about 40% at the end of the year. So 2018, go back to page 22 for that. We are 12.89% through 2018. Our budget is about 11.11% expended. Really spent on some office supplies here at the beginning of the year. Toner cartridges are pretty expensive. We hadn't replaced those since we got the new printer. So that's why that's showing up quite high. We're at 27.58% of our budget spent. I expect not to have to replace color cartridges for another year. Nothing else is standing out. We do have a water cooler that was repaired, and that was quite expensive, and a $400 to $500 repair on that. So that'll be coming out of the next month's budget, and that will come out of contractual maintenance building. You'll see that. Otherwise, nothing out of the ordinary, and I'd be happy to take questions on 2018.
All right, hearing none, then we'll move on to the librarian's report, starting with the library department activities report and statistics. Chris?
That starts on page 38. The strategic plan that you approved last month can be viewed on our website, newulmlibrary.org. On the left-hand side, you can see Library Strategic Plan 2018 to 2022 available. Our annual performance review process for our non-exempt employees was completed in February, and we thank all the staff for their participation in that. April and I completed FEMA Incident Command System 400 training, so we can manage some large-scale disasters. It was really interesting. There were about almost 20 of us in that training. 2 days. Well, a day and a half, yeah, day and 3/4. Very interesting. I was right here in town. And now it helps the city be able to apply for some federal grants. So there were a lot of city department heads and assistant department heads who participated. April attended customer service strategies training in Mankato on February 20th, and she reported very positively about that training. Jan Caveney, our youth services librarian, will serve on the Coalition for Active, Safe, and Healthy Streets. That's part of the Heart of New Ulm project, chaired by Cindy Winters. 7 people from Emmanuel Lutheran Kindergarten visited on February 16th for a tour and story time. That's become an annual visit from them. And another annual event is the NARN visiting during Fasching. That was on February 10th. We had 87 people there. It was such a hit. And David was there with his family. They had some new activities this year. It's always fun to keep something fresh, keep them engaged. And they even got to take home their very own brooms. They're sweeping away winter.
Oh, we
I don't know,
heard
is this
jingle
where-
bells for days and days afterwards.
So is this where they go and they abduct the mayor?
That
as
was
well?
on Friday, and then Saturday morning.
Okay, so the attendees don't get to do that part then too, right?
But the mayor was there.
Okay.
Jan, our youth services librarian, applied to do trainer workshop for Supercharged Story Times, and it's a train the trainer opportunity. She loves storytelling, and this would give her some tools to then go out and train others to be a storyteller. April will work with staff at the Brown County Historical Society to schedule Dakota War Week commemoration events in August. Again, another annual collaboration. The Wanagog Sculpture Landscape Committee continues to work on that space, and our meeting was postponed because of weather. There needs to be some measuring done regarding the slope of that space and making it ADA accessible. So we can't really do anything when the weather continues as it is. I attended Library Legislative Day at the Capitol. I was there March 5th in the evening for a briefing and then all day March 6th. I'm on a statewide legislative legwork committee, so my job was working on some of those logistics, and it was just a ball. I had a great time, got to know a lot of librarians, got reintroduced to some, got to speak with Senator Dames, sat down with him for a few minutes. He is chief author of the bill that would provide more funding to libraries, as well as reconfigure that formula that would be a benefit to Traverse de Sioux. So we just told him, great job. We hope that next year, which is the budget year for the biennium, that they will take a serious look at that piece of legislation and we'll be able to carry it through. It's been 10 years since we've had an increase in any funding from the state to those regional libraries. Now, vast majority of library funding comes at the local level. Cities and counties are supporting it. The state funding comes to these 12 regions, and they're providing support services like delivery, like interlibrary loan, doing some training opportunities. And so we're seeing increases in cost partly because the state has stayed level all that time, and yet we continue to want our outstanding library services that we get in this state. So we're hopeful that next year we'll have a good session and the legislature will take a good look at that RLBSS formula. And then Mankato Area Adult Basic Ed's basic computer classes started on February 21st. Full house, overflow crowd, and I think the difference was they decided to do it only once a quarter rather than continual. And so when you didn't offer it quite as much, all of a sudden we had great interest. And it's a 7-week course, and we'll be evaluating when works best for ABE to offer that course again. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
You mentioned that during the state legislative days that you had a chance to meet with Senator Doms. Were you able to meet with our state House Representative Torkelson at the same time?
I was not, no.
All right, if there's nothing else, then we'll go on to programming with April.
All right, we have the numbers here for the past programs. I wanted to add one to that. We finished up our adult winter reading program on March 2nd, and this year we had 71 people participate, and they turned in 345 recommendation slips. So I was very pleased with the success of that program. So thanks to our staff for helping out with that. In our upcoming programs, on March 15th, we have our Last Experiencing Hubble program, which Chris has been leading for us. It sounds like they've been having a lot of fun with the images from that program. I didn't include it in the list here, but on March 20th at 6:30 p.m., we have our Civil War Roundtable. Bryce Denzel will be talking about Decoration Day. On March 22nd, we have Western author Mark Mitten at 6:30. He's going to be talking about his recent Western novels, and he's a Minnesota author, so he's local. On Tuesday, March 27th at 6:30 p.m., we have Community Gardening, which will be led by Katie Hemberger, who's the manager of the New Ulm Community Garden. That's, again, one of the programs in a series that we're collaborating with the New Ulm Community Market and Co-op and the New Ulm Medical Center to offer. And then on March 4th, Wednesday at 7 p.m., we have an evening with Avi, which is our children's author program at Martin Luther College. And so that we're encouraging people from our regional library system to attend as well. It's kind of a rare opportunity to get to see an author of that stature here in New Ulm, so we're excited to offer that.
All right, thanks. Any questions for April? All right, then we'll move on to staffing update at library aide and library page. Chris.
Thank you. Sue Fletcher's joined the staff as a library aide. She has office manager experience, and she's been a library volunteer for almost 3 years. Her primary project has been working on the citywide digitizing project. She's been doing Fred Johnson autograph photos for quite some time. She will continue with that work, but add some library aide work, so we're happy to have her on board. She started last week.
Yep.
She's in her second week of training. April and our reference librarian, Lisa Sieve, interviewed library pages. We're not ready to make the announcement, but information will be to you next month.
All right, moving on to the carpeting update.
We have a request for quotations out to local vendors as well as the vendor who's on the statewide contract to provide us some bids on carpeting. We're looking at the new cat area in the meeting room, the studio space, the low vision room, all the way over to the chairs, as well as the area around the service center desk and the stairs that go down to adult fiction and up to adult nonfiction and young adult area. Thinking that we have the $10,000 that you've allocated and trying to stay within that framework. Those bids are due on the 23rd of March, and I have heard from two of them wanting to make appointments to come in and do some measuring. So I expect 3 bids at least, and I sent it to 2 other local vendors, so with potential of 5 that have actually received the requests. Any questions about that?
Alrighty, so then we've already covered the roof leak update, so now we go on to the remaining action items. And the first one is resolution number 2018-10, which is on page 46. And this is the first reading and adoption approving Minnesota Single Public Library Report 2017 for New Ulm Public Library. By state law, the submission of the 2017 Minnesota Single Public Library Report for New Ulm Public Library is a submission of the library board and must be approved by it. Attached is a copy of the report for New Ulm Public Library as prepared by Library Director Chris Wiley. It is expected that information regarding library revenue and expenditures will be emailed to library board members before the board meeting, and that was emailed to everyone. Hopefully you got it. This information is being finalized by the City Finance Department. So I will entertain a motion to approve the Minnesota Single Public Library Report 2017 for New Ulm Public Library.
So move.
Second.
A motion and a second. I'm assuming there's further discussion, as Chris was getting up and she's handing stuff out and.
And I have a whole presentation.
Oh my goodness. We're already over.
If it was in your packet, so if you don't want me to go over that, that's all right too, because I was ahead of things and was able to put that in the packet. What I did just hand out was the financial data that I emailed to you. And that's where I found out that we're at $33,000 over or under budget, because the finance department was running those final numbers for me so that we could include those in the annual report.
That's good news.
Well,
So-
you hate to see your preparation go for naught.
Yeah, I was gonna say, there's lots of good data. I mean, you can certainly pull out the ones that you feel are the most important.
Well,
Or if they're all equally important, we could.
it's so hard to choose when you put all of this effort into it. It takes me about 6 hours to do the annual report, and that's after years of finely tuning my process. And that's about as little as I'll ever be able to spend on it. It's quite a lengthy process, but I really enjoy seeing how things shake out over the course of a year, and especially this year when we see some increases in our visits, in our circulation.
So is this report required to be done by the director?
No,
Can't delegate it?
I could.
Okay, so
And in
that would cut your hours down to nothing.
Get ready, April. In fact,
April's glaring at you.
in fact, in 2012, when I was the assistant director, that's when I took over doing the annual report, and that was because of an emergency situation that I had to learn very quickly. And so when Larry came back, I said, I'll just keep doing it. And he was happy to have me do so. So
I'm sure April will gladly hear you keep doing it too.
Yeah,
Prepare for an emergency situation, Amy.
he really had a great process in place, and I just took that and ran with it. And April has enough familiarity that she could pick up and run with it if she needed to. But no, I was happy to do it again this year. As Carl said, I went to all that work. Let me show you a couple of things. I'm really happy about having door counters for 2018. You see here, we should extrapolate, and it's really a kind of a guess that our attendance was up in 2017, but I think the rest of the numbers bear that out. You saw an increase in attendance for programming, you saw an increase in circulation. So I think we can safely say, yes, we did see an increase in our door count. And then with our actual door counters this year, we'll be able to get a specific number for 2018. And again, reference questions being up as well. A couple of things were down, including our public computer use. As I think I've mentioned a number of times, we're in the final year of a 3-year contract with Userful, so we'll be looking at different solutions for another contract. And our wireless, we know our wireless is heavily used, and that really has shot up in the last couple of years. Total circulation is up 3.8%, which I'm thrilled about. We're up to 144,000 items. I have to keep with my papers here. Circulation plus interlibrary loan, that means all of our materials being used, whether they're checked out at our library or whether they go to other libraries and are checked out there. And so we saw a 4.2% increase in 2017 of those items. And the interlibrary loan items that we do receive has gone up. Thank you, book groups. They contribute to that quite a bit. Circulation of physical materials by age, very even between children's and adult. But you see a nice increase in young adult, I thought, from 2.78% to 4%. And
What are the age ranges for each of these categories? I mean,
what we consider children are items that are picture books, board books, junior books.
is that anything from the upstairs area?
That's from the original room,
Okay.
right?
Then how do you signify between adult and young adult then? And
In our catalog system, we designate an item as young adult, and when you see it on the shelf, it has that yellow sticker, and they have their special
Oh,
section
okay.
of the library. Yeah. And the reason why you see in blue, you saw such a high percentage in 2015, that's because that was the migration year. And so many of those statistics were really off when you change automation systems. So when we couldn't figure out where it was supposed to go, it went into other. And I remember, I don't know, it was probably 3 years ago when Professor Gosdek was on the board, and he said he wanted to know, he wanted to make sure that books were still being checked out heavily at the library. And so that's when I started doing this slide. And yes, we can safely say that books are by far the most checked out item at the libraries. 3/4 of our materials checked out are books. This trend of electronic material circulation is nationwide. You're seeing a decrease in ebooks. You're seeing an increase in electronic audiobook circulation. And total e-material circulation decreased 1.7%. We just don't generate a lot of e-checkouts. If you look at a place like Mankato, Blue Earth County Library, they are checking out a lot of e-materials. You know, lots of reasons for it, but I think part of it stems from we just don't have a very big collection. And it's check out one use, so you have to place a hold. That's a challenge as well.
So when you say Mankato like is checking out a lot more electronic materials, is that just in total volume or is it their percentage higher? Like on your next chart, you show the e-materials versus physical materials. So is their percentage higher or
Their
is it?
percentage is higher.
Okay.
We typically, in a month of our physical circulation, are just under 50% of what Blue Earth County checks out in physical materials, but they're tripling us, quadrupling us in electronic materials every month.
Is that the overdrive system?
That's the overdrive
So
system.
did they
yes.
use the same software? I mean,
It's the same materials, right? Yep. And I'll put a couple of those slides together for next month so you can see how we compare to Blue Earth County. So our e-materials is less than 5% of our total circulation. We went up in average number of checkouts per borrower to 23.6. I think I skew that. I think there are a few people who maybe skew those numbers. And I'm really happy to see that our physical materials owned is under 80,000. That's one of our goals of our strategic plan, is to be under 80,000 for a number of reasons. The shelves look really nice when you have some room, when you're keeping the newest, most current stuff. And we pay TDS partly based on the number of items we have. So we want the materials that are actually circulating to be what's on our shelves. This is not included in the annual report, but I love this number because we can see our total website page views. We have a lot of pages on the website, and our library events page is second or third highest clicked on every month in the city. Yeah. So
Does that include, like, if people go on there to reserve books, is that considered part of this or is that a different?
if you go through the library's website to get to the catalog, we get a click for you being on the home page.
Okay.
And our library events page is often higher than our home page. People are going directly to the library events page. Adult programming, April's doing a fantastic job. We're seeing increased attendance at that. Increased number of programs because we added a poetry reading group. You know, we add these monthly programs and that is reflected. And young adult programming, that was Jan's summer reading programming. She had great attendance at a couple of art events. And you see the difference of having a full-time children's librarian for a full year reflected here, where we've doubled our attendance and doubled the number of programs that are being offered. And so we're getting more in line with last fall when I showed you some of the other libraries of our size and we didn't have quite the attendance. Well, I think we'll see something more something that's better reflected this year because we've had someone in that position for a full year. We'll be able to compare favorably with some of those other libraries. And as I mentioned, having a full-time youth services librarian for a full year has made a big difference with us. Having April take over programming has been a fantastic transition. We got our new sign, which I've heard good things about. I've also not heard things, and I think that's good. It just kind of blends in. It fits what the building looks like. We began the 5-year strategic planning process. We got a new elevator. Mankato ABE moved in, and that's been a great collaboration. Lots of things still to do, including redesigning the children's space, updating that space, looking at the carpeting, landscaping. I mean, there's just all kinds of projects, and that's what keeps this job really fun and interesting. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
All right. Not hearing any questions then, I'll go back to the motion. Let me find the page here. All right, so we've had a motion and a second and a discussion on approving the Minnesota Single Public Library Report 2017 for New Ulm Public Library. So if there's no further discussion, then all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Okay, now the last item is resolution number 2018-11, which is on page 82. And that is, this is the first reading and adoption for accepting donation of artwork. George Glotzbach would like to donate a black and white photographic print, 20 inches by 16 inches, taken by Phelps Graham Flip Schulke, that features New Ulm High School students at graduation time circa 1949. The library director recommends framing and displaying it at the library, which currently displays an original Flip Schulke piece of the New Ulm Battery. A photograph of the image is attached. The New Ulm Public Library Board has approval over any art to be displayed in the library. So I will make a motion to, or accept, a motion to accept the donation of the artwork.
So move.
Second,
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
do we know who these people are? Does it come with a list?
It does.
Okay, good.
Maybe we know?
It says the person who's digitizing them for the city website.
Does the school district have any interest in a photograph like this?
I don't know. It's not an original. I don't know if they would.
Okay.
It will look fantastic in the Fred Johnson room.
And now the library, we recommend framing and displaying it in the library. Any ideas for the cost of the framing? Minimal? I mean,
Yeah,
less than
minimal.
$100 kind of thing?
Dollar store.
Priceless.
charge.
Oh. It's not my budget.
Previously, what we've done when we receive artwork that we want to frame, we'll ask the friends for a donation to frame it.
Okay. All right, any other further questions or discussion? All right, hearing none, then all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. All right, any other business, Chris?
No, thank you.
Okay. Anybody else have any other business besides wanting to get out of here? All right, well, thanks, everyone. The meeting, consider the meeting adjourned.
Thank you.